Madam Clerk, can I get the clerk's report of compliance?
Yes, sir. In accordance with the South Carolina Code of Laws 1976, Section 30-4-80B is amended. Notification of the meeting and the meeting agenda were posted at least 24 hours prior to the meeting on the County Council building at a publicly accessible place on the county website, and a copy of the agenda was provided to the local news media and to all persons or organizations requesting notification.
Thank you. Before we get started, I'd like to recognize Ridgeland's administrator. Dennis, would you just introduce your first and last name for me? Thank you, Dennis. At this time, we have a flag to my right, and we're going to have the pledge and then the invocation by Mr. Carroll.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Dear Lord, as we come before you today, we want to once again thank you for your bountiful blessings. And Lord, as we meet today, guide us and direct us that we'll do the best that we can for the citizens of Jasper County, Hardeeville, and Ridgeland. All these things, Lord, we do ask in your most precious name. Amen.
Amen. We're going to move down to agenda item 3, approval of the agenda. Can I get a motion to approve or disapprove the agenda?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda as written.
Can I get a second? I have a first, I have a second. All in favor, raise your right hand, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right. Now, this one is item 4. It's an executive session if requested. Is there anyone here who feels we need to go into executive session for any reason?
I think as we go along, we may want to go into executive session, so.
Okay. Then we will leave that open. Moving down to item 5, workshop on shared fire service budget. All right, so I guess there's a good formula on this, but I would like to have Mr. Gruber, who is available, and Attorney Flynn, who is available. And I'm going to ask you, Josh, I can do this 2 ways. I can go ahead and open the floor to you, or I can go ahead and start from my right to left and let these folks start asking you questions. I think we all have a good idea what we're dealing with here. If that's fine with you, that's how we'll do it. But if you'd like to go ahead and do a presentation,
Sure.
Which you prefer?
I was going to say, so we do have some presentation materials available for you today. So we're happy to go over those, but if it's not in the best interest of the committee, if you've already got information and direct questions you'd like us to answer, certainly happy to take those head on as well.
Well, I anticipate that you've got some numbers and some things that are a little further along than last time. So
Yeah.
let's do this. I'm going to go ahead because it looks like you were ready to go. I'm going to let you proceed as you had planned, and then we will start with the questions after.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, so today there's a couple of things that we'd like to cover with you. First, we've talked several times now about looking at this new service area for fire and emergency medical services. And again, the intent of looking at this is to see if there is a more efficient way for us to go about providing these services to the public while still ensuring ultimate standards of public safety are in place. So today, we want to go over what our proposal is in terms of the transition plan, how we would go about providing services to the area. So we've looked at the maps before, we'll put them up again, but this time we'll talk about kind of what the city's proposal would be in providing services. We do have a very detailed operating budget that we have put together. However, unfortunately, we don't have a lot of information that I think you're going to need today to make informed decisions, primarily when it comes to the revenue side of things. We've been attempting for over a month now to try and get some information information from the county, and as of yet, we have not received it. So what you're going to see is a very detailed line item by line item budget that shows what the anticipated expenditures are, but we don't have a comparable document to show you in terms of what the revenues generated from the service areas are. And so unfortunately, I don't know that we're going to be able to have the kind of conversation that I think we were hoping to have today in terms of evaluating the effectiveness of this program and whether or not it's in the public's best interest. But to the extent that we have information, we want to share it with you. We want to be transparent in terms of what we are proposing, because the whole purpose behind this is we believe we can provide as good, if not better, response times and service coverage for a more cost-effective price, and we'll outline why we believe that to be the case. But unless we can get the data that we need to ultimately confirm that, it's going to be very difficult for us to tell you that, yes, this is what the cost would be, this is what the expense would be, and then you can make an informed choice about how those two stack up against each other.
Can you
Yes, sir.
give me
Please.
specifics on what information you need from us?
So we need information regarding the value of a mill, the number of properties that are within the service area, the amount of revenues that are generated from those properties, as well as a lot of budgetary information regarding the operations as they currently exist. Now, we've taken the information that you put out to the public in forms of your adopted budgets, your annual financial reports, and we've used that to try to extrapolate some of this information. But up until very recently, we have not had any ability to gain any of the information directly from the county in terms of its finances or the cost of services.
Mayor, Mr. Chair. Specific as to who you asked of this?
Yes, sir. So our request started a little over a month ago. As we had talked at our last meeting, I told you that I thought it was going to be necessary to bring on a third party to help us pull together all of the financial informations and to perform these calculations. And so we have worked to hire an outside party, Mr. Thad Wilson, who's going to be here today and talk to you about the information that he's been able to gather. But very shortly after bringing him on board, he communicated with both the county administrator and county staff in an attempt to get information. And it wasn't until Thursday of last week that he got his first opportunity to even speak with staff. And at that meeting, they didn't have a whole lot of data to provide. They just understood that they'd been requested to make that meeting and to facilitate it happening. And so we've been searching for over a month now, trying to get this information, knowing that this meeting was coming, and just have not been able to get a lot of data back.
Well, at this point, I would think anybody on our council would appreciate a list of those items. I'll try to write them down, but you had about 5 or 6 of them. Detailed list of what you want.
Yes, sir.
And then we'll go from there.
We will take the list that we sent over to the county administrator, and we can send that to your attention.
Easily.
Yes, sir. Thank you. All right. So having said that, let us go kind of dive into, first and foremost, we're going to talk about the transition plan and how the city would go about providing services to this area. So I'm going to ask our chief, Steve Camp, and our deputy chief, Jonathan Beckmeyer, to come up and walk you through that information.
Good morning, councils. Hope everyone's doing great today. I am going to go ahead and just turn this over directly to our operations chief, and he's going to go over how we're going to actually make this happen.
Morning, my name is Jonathan Beckmeyer. I'm the Deputy Chief of Operations here at the City of Hardeeville, and real quickly going to present some operational components. I think it's, for the most part, well accepted that taxpayers are interested in investing in public safety. On our side of it, it's our obligation to ensure that we are effectively providing that public safety, and then the next component of that is that there's no fluff or waste or excess. So that's what we have worked at. What we're going to talk about, and I'll go quickly, but obviously here available for as many questions as you may have, but I also realize people may be viewing this on the outside. They're not as well spun up on what this is all about. But to paint it with a broad stroke, it's a natural progression of public safety in an area that is growing. Fortunately, both councils are willing to take a look at this now and address it head on. So that is something that is very fortunate to all of our taxpayers and visitors and everybody else that not only live here in the county or in the city, but also travel through it because this doesn't always happen. Councils don't always come together and take a look at this on the front end, and sometimes it's a problem that just continues to manifest. Current system is operationally misaligned, and what I mean by that is fire apparatus and ambulances are routinely, as a matter of the way what we would call run cards are by SOP, Standard Operating Procedure or Guideline, routinely, by the way we're deployed, passing closer units. It happens every day, numerous times a day, and that just goes against the very essence of what we're doing. If you think about it, it is almost absurd to consider a fire engine running lights and sirens, which indicates it's in a hurry, to pass closer units that are sitting in the station, closer capable units. Our response system right now is dictated by jurisdiction, not proximity. The system by design has delayed emergency response, and a couple examples of that are, just as I mentioned, due to distance, delays due to dispatch complexity. So what we're proposing also clears a lot of that cognitive load, that strain that happens when dispatch is trying to figure out, is the person at the 2 mile marker or at the 3 mile marker? Are they on the right side of the road or the left side of the road? This problem addresses that. Obviously, operational inefficiency has consequences. Everybody understands that. Delayed care and cardiac arrest, trauma, airway emergency, we're talking about seconds and minutes that make all the difference in the world. When we're talking about on the fire side, because we are addressing both fire and EMS, fire grows very, very quickly, especially with our modern fire load, something that everybody is familiar with. It's all about how quickly can we get there, but not just how quickly we can get there, but are we built for the area that we're serving? So there is a difference in operations between, say, more of an urban versus rural area. This brings an obvious increased risk to the public as well as the responders who are trying to mitigate situations. As that fire grows, going back to the fire example, it's getting more and more dangerous. Obviously, if we can catch it when it's a pot on the stove, that's a lot different than catching it when 2 or 3 bedrooms are fully involved. But there's also underlying risk that once you start to really sit with it and think about it, if a fire engine has come from 6 miles further away past another firehouse and is running lights and sirens and an accident happens, there's liability that could have been avoided. Why was that unit responding to this incident when there was a closer unit? So that would go into that final bullet, preventable escalation of otherwise manageable events. All that rolls into there. That which is predictable is preventable. How we got here: as an area grows in population, public safety has to grow with it. The city of Hardeeville, as an example, and why we're here today, is growing and is going to continue to grow, and annexations happen and all these other things happen. And so whereas it made sense at one point in time, it does not make sense to continue to run a model that has now become antiquated, for lack of a better word. There are new properties, there are annexations. It's a natural progression. The current system was not built for today's demand. The proposed system that we're talking about today is not only built for today, but it's built for tomorrow and every tomorrow thereafter. Project Phoenix is the path forward. It realigns service delivery to match the actual demand. It eliminates entirely structural inefficiencies that are organic to today's system, improves our response time performance. These are not opinion, they're factual and objective. It strengthens the system-wide coverage, not just the city of Hardeeville, but as a county as a whole. This is not an expansion, it's a correction. A natural correction. I'm not saying there were necessarily errors along the way, but it is a correction as we grow. 2 fiscally responsible models moving forward. We have drawn up 2 models that are for the councils to deliberate and decide on. Model A is an operational improvement with targeted resource adjustment, and we'll get into each model. We'll probably spend a little more time on Model A than Model B today, but Model B is an option. Model B enhances system performance with increased ambulance capacity, and what we're talking about is the total number of ambulances that will exist in the city of Hardeeville, which obviously is the county as a whole. Both models improve response alignment, they reduce unnecessary duplication of services, and they deliver fiscal efficiency within the city as well as the county. Both models that we're going to propose fix the problem. The difference is the level of performance that the councils choose to deliver. This is a summary map, and I know I'm going fast, but it's because I know there's a lot to talk about, and this is not the first time hearing any of this. More of a just summary or getting us, again, like I said, the people who may be viewing this for the first time. So this map can be discussed at length, but this is what we're proposing. Additional facilities that will operate and apparatus to be used. Existing Jasper County facility at 2721 Levy Road. We have been in some discussions with the county, and we believe it is the county's intent to leave resources in Levy, and we would operate those resources. So an ambulance, a fire engine, and a tanker. There's another facility in Levy. We would operate out of that as well. I'll let Chief Camp talk more on that. And we would need to utilize the existing facility at Mead Road temporarily. We would place an ambulance in there, and that is temporary until the new Station 82 is built. So those are some of the things that we'll get deeper into today, depending on how much the council wants to explore that. Model B plan, the difference is it's a second new ambulance that would be utilized out of city's existing Station 83. So Model A has the city of Hardeeville running an ambulance out of the Mead Road area down there, Station 82's area, an ambulance out of this area downtown, and an ambulance out of Levy. Model B would bring a fourth ambulance online, which would then be placed at Station 83. And we feel confident that both models can handle the workload. Additional staffing, city staffing needs, the city would hire 6 EMS staff to work out of Levy, 6 EMS staff to temporarily serve from Mead Road ultimately in the new Station 82, and 9 fire service staff to serve in the Levy area. Model B is an additional 6 EMS staff personnel. That's that fourth ambulance coming online.
Excuse me, is that, can I just have a question?
Yes, sir.
Go back to the staffing. EMS, this is, we're confused. I think we should stay, personally, I think we should stay with just fire right now. This is very complicated, and to put an EMS in there, the fire district doesn't support EMS, so that has to come from a different source of money.
Yes, sir.
So if we start doing that,
Respectfully, sir, we disagree with that, and primarily here's the reason why we disagree with that. Your firefighters also provide EMS services, and when they're not providing EMS, they're providing fire. And so it's very difficult to say, yes, they do the same job, but we have to pay for them separately. We disagree with that. We think they're all being paid for from the same or similar sources. And again, the whole reason why we're having this conversation is we believe we can provide as good or better coverage and response times to the public for cheaper than what it's currently costing the county. And so if we can show that for both fire and EMS, then there's justification there that we should look into both, because it's in the public's best interest that we provide them the best service possible for the cheapest price. And so we think that this needs to be part of these considerations and these discussions, because we're not sure that it's going to be possible to separate them out from those conversations.
well, Mr. Chairman, can I continue? I just think that with our talking last night and all that, we're in unknown territory.
When you say mention talking last night,
We were at a meeting last night. We were at the meeting. We had a meeting last night, a workshop. Council meeting.
okay,
Council meeting.
that's not something that the city was aware of, and I don't know that we had an opportunity to participate in that.
We certainly. as
We
a
gave it to you. You had it there. It was on our agenda.
Okay, so you published an agenda, but you never reached out or told anybody about the meeting that was going to take place, or invited us to participate, or give us any information.
Well, that doesn't.
All right,
let-
John,
that's-
everybody, hold on one second. Let me say this. Hardeeville has discussion about this
Absolutely.
all the time. And just because we're not in the room, we all know we had discussion. And that's all Mr. Kemp is saying, that we've had discussion on it. It doesn't have to get into anything else. It's that simple. John, do you want to finish up?
Yes. And what I'm trying to say is the EMS may be a portion of this, but I like to keep it as simple as possible, because we have to do 3 things all at once. And if we keep it simple, we'll be better off. and go forward. All the discussions were about fire.
The problem is you use your firefighters to provide EMS services and vice versa. And so if we're going to have a conversation about how we can save you money by providing the same service with fewer people and fewer stations, then we have to have an apples to apples conversation, which means EMS needs to be included.
Well, again, I understand that, but it's just a little shock that, and every time we never, in fact, when we were at the meeting here, the last time, the meeting, we never talked about bringing EMS in there. It was just something to discuss, but it was never, now you're coming here, and it's really, it's the money. It's really the money, because we need to know, and part of the discussion I had last night was, this joint service is nothing new. We did it in 2017, I think it was. 2017 was when we took back the stuff from Hardeeville, right? That was it, and I think that's the problem is we're doing it again, but we're doing it in a different way.
Yeah,
And I just think that if we can keep it simple with the intent that EMS will be further, that's all I'm saying.
No, I completely understand that. I just don't know how we facilitate a conversation and exclude EMS from it when your business model involves using the same personnel to provide both services.
Okay, this time I'm going to let Mr. Mearsman have his moment.
Back in January 26th, this conversation started. That information for EMS and fire was here from the very beginning. And I'm sitting here, we don't have the information today. I'm looking around at a lot of staff and a lot of talent sitting here, and I just feel we're sitting here spinning our wheels without having the information to make any hard decisions today, which we should have had. We requested this monetary amount. I understand what you gentlemen are saying. This is what we can do. But until we know, can we afford to do it, we're spinning the wheels with this. And we should have had this information. I don't know who's supposed to provide it or what, that we had a date on it, but this isn't government.
Miss,
I'm sorry. It's my feeling.
thank you. Mr. Mayor?
If I may suggest to this board, let's finish this presentation, and then we can, make the discussion on the total information, rather than get stuck on this one point, 5 versus 6. I don't think it's productive, Mr. Chair.
Right, but Mr. Mayor, we are all here, and to get as much productivity out of it, let's carry it to the end. I would like to ask, Josh, some of that information that you were asking, is any of that projections, things that will happen, or these all past numbers?
They're all past numbers.
Okay.
Numbers regarding existing operations and existing personnel.
Okay,
In the aggregate, and again, we're gonna go into this in a little bit more detail, but in the aggregate, we believe that you're going from 5 stations currently that you are paying for on an annual basis to something that we can provide the same level of service to the same area for 2.5 stations. You're currently paying for 30 personnel. We think we can do it for around 20. Those are the conversations we want to have with you to show, again, we can provide the same level or better service for the residents for a cheaper price. But without being able to dig into that information, we can't sit here and say, here's what you're paying now, here's what you would pay in the future, and then correspondingly, here's what the city's budget looks like now, here's what it needs to go to provide that level of service. And so that's the information that we're really missing, is it's a snapshot of today, not where it's going to go in the future.
okay. So for productivity, we're going to get those answers. And so we've had a use here. I'm going to go ahead to my right and ask, Bo, would you like the floor? Do you have a question?
I was speaking.
Yeah, but I'm asking if you would like to.
No, I don't.
Any questions?
Actually, I do.
Yep.
I'm a little perplexed with Mr. Kemp's question about not bringing EMS in. As a former EMT myself, whenever fire went on a call, EMS was automatically dispatched because for the reason if these guys are in a fully involved fire, rehab needs to be provided to the firefighters, and that is a very important service that we provide to the firefighters to make sure that their temperature is not rising, they are not dehydrated, that, their blood pressure is at a certain extent. So to say that EMS is not involved with fire, I think it's crazy, because if you look at a fire truck going down the road, not long after you see EMS flying down the road to them. So to say that they are not one and the same, or not both integrated at the same time, I think it's just crazy.
I would like to ask Councilman Kemp a question, because maybe he had something, a different thought than that. Mr. Kemp, are you concerned about the funding of those two?
I'm
that they're-
concerned about the funding, number one. Number two is, I'm really not concerned about the additional staffing as much as I am Model B. I was just trying to say Model B is something for the future right now, because it gets confusing as enough.
Yes, sir. And that was our intent, is to show you what we can do under the minimum amount of money and what we could do if y'all wanted to go that route. We're not saying that that is where we're going. That's why we're presenting more of the Model A information versus the Model B. We just put Model B out there as it is an option. So if you choose to pay the extra, you could go to Model B. If not, we are presenting Model A, which is the rock bottom dollar that we can come up with.
Okay.
I'm not, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to take away safety. I'm just trying to,
Understand.
I have to me, it's very confusing that we're going to have evaluation, we're having this fire district, right? We're raising money, we're lowering and everything like this, and then to put something else in there. I like to keep it simple, get the thing going, and one of my future and one of my questions is I'd like to have an organization or a committee staffed with finance, fire, and an elected official 6 months out to make a report card to us how we're doing.
And I understand that.
And that's where I'm just trying to be, I want it to work, but I don't, if we get too convoluted about it and too much out of it, I mean, we can build it and say, okay, this is what's going to happen, insert, but not do everything all at once. That's my whole thing. That's,
At this
we
time,
looked at it as economies of scale. Is if you keep EMS, you're still operating out of all of those firehouses. So you're not shutting down any firehouses. You're not creating, any of your operational cost does not change, other than your 2 firemen are no longer in those firehouses. Outside of that, there is no other savings. So you're still going to operate out of Levy. You're still going to operate at 34 and 35. So we looked at it as economies of scale, and you're still paying for 3 ambulances instead of 2. So that's what we were looking at.
I would like to ask Mr. Ciccarelli at this time if he has a question.
Yeah, first of all, I'm just kind of disturbed with the lack of communication. If we want to share services with fire, we're not sharing services administratively, it seems, which is not right. When that happens to me and I get a roadblock, I go around it. I just find a place or a person that I'll speak to, even if it's the chair of this council, to try to get things moving, because I wouldn't have come here today if there was no lack of preparation. There's no sense in moving further with it, although I am interested in hearing what your transition plan is, and I'd like to, if we can get a copy of whatever's coming through on your presentation, to give a deeper dive into it and have a more productive discussion at a later point, have our attorney look at it, and see if everything meshes together. But by gosh, I mean, go around, if you get a roadblock, go around it and get in touch with somebody that can get things moving. A month ago was inexcusable. Yeah, so the other part of it is that, I'm just trying to think. This has just been an issue with me for many years, and the mayor's addressed it, and it's probably beaten to death. But, when I have to do a job and I need a hammer for that job, I don't bring a screwdriver to that job. When I see fire trucks responding to EMS calls, to me, I just can't, it just doesn't look right. Public perception looks like, why are we using a fire truck to respond to an emergency medical call? So that's one thing that hopefully someday in the future, somebody will figure that out. But at this point, I don't know what the
I can
answer.
help you with that, Mr. Ciccarelli, if you would like to hear me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Be
Yeah.
recognized by the chair.
Let me, I'm going to come to you next. I'm going to recognize Mr. Mayor. He's already in queue. Thank you.
So anyway, I'm hearing numbers now that I've gotten, different numbers. I'm hearing like we have something like 36 dedicated to ambulance, 48 fire trucks. I'm not sure if those are interchangeable numbers, or I think I heard the number 30. Mr. Gruber, you mentioned 30. I gave the chair, our vice chair, a memo that I've gotten some information on. We might want to speak to our attorney, just a sidebar with him at some point to talk about that, because the numbers are not coming across straight. But this is premature because I don't know where things are going to land, in a week or so, or when we get back and reconvene. But that's all I have to say, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the time. Thank you.
Mr. Ciccarelli. Mr. Mayor?
I'd just like to note, particularly, because I don't want to get the conversation confused. I agree with Mr. Kemp, and I think our staff knows that Model B is the future. It's not, I don't think we need to jump to Model B in the first year. And I do like the suggestion that there be a review board 6 months, 9 months out to say, okay, what's working, what's not working. I think we should have a long-term contract, probably 10 years, but I think the idea of a review board is a good one, Mr. Kemp, and I agree, we don't have to jump right to Model B. That'll be our being the city of Hardeeville, if we go ahead with this next year, if we want to devote more money out of our budget to do Model B. But to start, I agree, keep it simple.
Thank you. Can I get Ms. Guzman next?
Right ahead,
And I'll come to you after. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, so in response to your, the question as to you didn't understand the reason why engine is driving after an ambulance, and you were confused as to that reason. Being in EMS myself, and you're going to hear this a lot, and I'm speaking from experience. Sometimes there are two females on the truck, and you have a heavy patient that you have to lift. Sometimes you're in their house, and they have fallen in a very precarious place that it's very hard to put equipment in there to lift this patient safely. That is when we put the call out to dispatch for manpower. And that's why sometimes you'll see an engine following behind, or if you see them going on tandem at the same time. Sometimes if the call, it's like a cardiac call or whatever that may be, you need additional help, and that's who's on those trucks. You'll have a paramedic or 2 or 3 on those trucks. And when there is a cardiac call, you need all hands on deck. That's why you see an engine behind an ambulance. It's not because they just want to go down the roads with the lights and sirens screaming with their hair on fire. That's the reason why.
Yeah,
So I hope that answers your question, because I know you asked the same question at the previous workshop as well. So, and somebody did explain it to you, but it's apparently come back up again. So I hope that cleared your confusion.
Yeah, it does, but I also spent like maybe 6 or 7 years as an EMT, and I've never had to call for a fire truck for that kind of help. And it can happen, and yes, you call for that extra support if you need it, but to automatically send an ambulance and a fire truck, to me, that fire truck now becomes committed to the medical call versus if there's a fire that has to be pulled, that truck has to be rerouted. So I've, to my experience, I have never seen that. That's why it troubles me that I see that all the time, and I think it's just a resource issue about why a fire truck. I mean, if they were responding in a vehicle or something like that, I can understand it, but a fire truck, which also causes public concern, where a fire truck is speeding through an intersection or causing, additional traffic tie-ups because that truck takes up a lot of space, just doesn't seem practical to me. But I accept what you're saying. I'm comfortable with it. It just, perception-wise, it just doesn't make sense to me, and that's all I'm saying. But for,
Perception and safety are two different things, and I
Yeah.
will always err on the side of safety.
yeah, and I mean, if that's what they need to respond to a call, that's what they need. But I still feel that it's just an excess, it's excessive, and it's just not, I don't really know if I agree with the safety part of it, but, because I think two vehicles that are responding cause more distress on the roadway to traffic, and that type of thing. But it is what it is. I don't know if it'll ever change, but I'm willing to just, wait it out to see if someday that'll change.
So at this time, I'm going to move on to Mr. Mearsman. Thank you,
When
Gene.
I'm ill, I don't self-diagnose. I go to a professional, I go to the doctors. I see 4 gentlemen here that have dedicated their lives to fire and EMS. I rely on your gentlemen's input on this. You're the professionals with this, I'm not. But what I can say is, all of us sitting up here right now, we're all in the middle of budget. We have to be able to present a budget in the next 90 days and have it approved to the public. And we need the information to make an educated decision. And I'm sorry, we just don't have that. I see A model, B, that's fine. We don't have the exact numbers on those, and we can't put numbers to anything. But I wish we did. I honestly wish we did. Do we push this out till next year? Do we push it down the road till 6 months? I don't know. But I do think that we need a little more input on this. We've been working on this now for 5 months, and we're no further along, really. I mean, we can hire whoever we hire to look at it, but without the numbers, and if we don't have them soon, we're going to have to delay it. We can't go back to the public with a budget and then say, oops, we need to change it. That's embarrassing, and it's not good government.
Thank you, Mr. Mearsman.
We are ready to present our side of those numbers today, sir. We have our cost, but we just don't have the other side.
All right. At this time, you have numbers ready? Let's go ahead. And then we're all going to hit that one.
So we're going to turn the presentation over to Mr. Thad Wilson. Thad has assisted us in a number of areas in the past when it comes to municipal improvement districts and other governmental financing and calculations. And so his scope of work, which was provided to the county administrator and shared with the county team prior to this meeting, indicates that his goal is to gather up all of the information necessary to put together a proposed operating budget, and then all the information necessary to put together the proposed sources of revenues. And so, again, he's going to talk to you about the information that he's been able to gather and how that's been put together in the draft budget for Model A. Make it clear that Model B is not on the table. It was for informational purposes only, but Model A is what we have based all of our numbers off of.
Thank you.
Think you gotta.
Why don't you get recognized by the chair instead of by Josh?
All right. If everybody allows,
Perfect. So guys, I'm Lawrence Flynn. I've been helping the county in the discussions on the fire consolidation, which started all of this. And so obviously there are a lot of moving parts, and I know there's a longer backstory here. I do want to think, I want to just kind of maybe set the table from the county's perspective, which seems to be missing here. And this is really helpful to have Thad here to talk through the math that is the city's perspective on what the service is going to be. At the end of the day, service in the unincorporated areas of Jasper County and the southern portion outside the incorporated limits of the city of Hardeeville is ultimately the county's responsibility to provide that service for both fire and EMS. What we don't know at this point is what we're going to do with our ultimate staffing needs on a going forward basis, whether we're going to take those existing personnel and move them to other areas of the county. And so I think we have two issues that we're trying to solve, and I just want to make sure, because this can get really complicated and we can get way down into the wormhole thinking through all the various issues. But I think we have a math problem and we have a service problem. And the question that the council has to answer on both sides, and the reason I'm really glad that Thad is here to give the numbers, the county doesn't necessarily need to justify the numbers that we are otherwise charged or how we're going to deploy our costs, because council needs to make a decision as to where we intend to keep the existing personnel that are currently providing service in the southern portion of the county, if that's going to move into the northern portion of the county. that is actually a legitimate cost to the county that needs to be considered. And so I think the thing that we need to get out of today is have the city present their information. Whatever that number is, council, the Jasper County Council can then take that back, workshop it, and decide, does that number work for us? And that's a math problem that we have to solve internally, that then allows us to decide how we deploy our services with whatever the residual funds that are left. And I know y'all want information out of us, and look, in a perfect world, we would all like that, because we're trying to say, how do we solve to a problem that is solving a delta that makes the most sense from a cost standpoint? But that's not necessarily the same position that the county is in. The county is saying, we are potentially assigning service responsibility to the city for an area outside your municipal limits, which you are allowed to do by statute, so long as you do it by contract. But the county, as the contractual counterparty, gets to decide the level and the value of the services that you're going to provide based on the information that you provide us. And so if the number comes in today, and I'm just putting a number out there, and you say it's $5 million to provide this service, the county may or may not decide that that works for them. And if it doesn't work for them, then we have the obligation to figure out how to provide that service in the southern portion of the county in the areas that are not incorporated in the city of Hardeeville. And so I think that's got to be the baseline that we all operate from. And if that doesn't work, then we may need to punt this to a future date. But someone said 90 days to be able to figure this out. We've got less than 60 days, because the fiscal year starts on July the 1st. And so to Mr. Kemp's point, former Chairman Kemp, the issue that we're wrestling with is we had to consolidate the fire service areas for some legal purposes. And so we're going through that process. That is going to happen, assuming council gives third reading to that, to consolidate the Jasper Rural Fire District so that we have an unincorporated area fire service district. That levies its own taxes for fire service. Obviously, money for EMS comes from the county general fund. The combination of those needs to be something that we decide from a staffing standpoint how that best suits the county's needs to provide service in the southern portion of the county. Hopefully, there's a conversation that involves the city of Hardeeville, but ultimately that is Jasper County Council's determination as to whether or not the math that y'all have provided us makes sense that we can actually fund. And so I think it's really important to hear what Thad has to say from the presentation, but it may simply be that we can't afford to do it because we have to lay off 15 fire personnel or EMS personnel in order to make your math work. And that may be a decision that this council is not willing to otherwise take on. And so I think that's got to be the baseline that we operate from. And so as we solve this problem, we got to recognize it's a math problem. Once we receive it from y'all, then we can go back in and workshop whether or not that math works for us. And so I think I don't want to get at cross purposes to that. And I think it's just really helpful to have that conversation, and it'll allow us to come back, workshop it, and decide whether or not that works, and we can make that happen by June 30.
Thank you, Mr. Flynn. Before I call Thad up, I just want to make a comment here. So technically, you have 3 fire districts, Ridgeland, Hardeeville, County. You have to have competition. You could, through agreement with those 3, say Hardeeville is going to take care of the whole county, or Ridgeland could take care of the whole county, or the county could take care of everything. Only through agreement. We don't want that, because just like we had 2019, whatever the date was, we tried something and it didn't work. You get something that big, you don't just change it, because now you've got to purchase this. It gets too convoluted. So we need to have 3 healthy fire stations. And the only way to do that, when you're concentrating everything in Hardeeville, that's where the growth is. When you take land mass that's vast, that you have provide that coverage, and you take out every bit of things that help pay for that, it gets very complicated for the county to provide that much land mass. So we've got to keep that in mind when we're doing this, because we have to be healthy as a county, healthy as Hardeeville, healthy as Ridgeland, and let's keep that in mind. And we're not trying to take anything from Hardeeville or Ridgeland or vice versa. We're all trying to, and if we can have some savings, that's what we're here for. Thad's going to come up and give some numbers. Keep in mind that some of these numbers are very hard to get. It will be a year plus, because once we set these districts up and we figure out who's paying what and how much, then we've got a good idea. So we've got to kind of come together and come up with an agreement that we're going to actually trust each other and move forward. And that's what we're going to have to do if we're going to do it. Now, the last thing I want to say here is 2 things. Fire districts, shared services. They are not the same thing. They do not have to go down the same road. If we can't agree on something here now, we're going to have to separate that baby. And we're going to take care of what by June 1st or whatever date we've got, that deadline is going to get met. And we're not going to let up this other thing, what we're trying to figure out. But like I said, if we all put our heads together, as best as I can tell, we can make this work. If Hardeeville remembers that we don't want just landmass with no way of funding it, and if we can make all that work out, and I know you know, but keep that in mind while we go forward. At this time, I'm gonna call Thad up.
Councils, thank you. Thad Wilson, my firm is Water Street Public Finance, and thank you all for the opportunity to be here. Josh gave a pretty good overview of my scope of work. It's available, as Josh indicated, the county administrator had a look at it. One thing to add to it that hasn't exactly been said is that part of my scope of work encompassed the concept of thinking through the county's go-forward cost of services, figure out what the county's savings are, and help both parties come together with a solution that would work. That part of it, the county's savings, or what the county's gonna expend to provide services north of the border. To state the obvious, that's what I have not done. What you're looking at on the screen is what I have done. So as contemplated, as described accurately, working with the city's team, we have prepared a detailed budget for the city to take on what's been described earlier, the entire the described southern part of the county. That's to pick up a few new stations, add an ambulance, operate fire and EMS across the entire southern part of it. Let me hit a few points there. One, it is fire and EMS, and I appreciate the differences. I appreciate different funding sources. The city's budget combines those. The budget you're looking at's got two columns. I'm gonna scroll down in a little bit and show it to you, but the first set of numbers is the existing city draft budget for 2026, 2027. So we're working off of what the city expects to spend to provide its current level of service, current operations for the upcoming fiscal year. That number is 9.3 million. Folks at the city are familiar with that. For the sake of everybody, the go-forward budget for Project Phoenix for the expanded service area is built in a consistent manner. That's the far right column, and again, I'm going to start scrolling down, but the context of this is we've built a budget of what Project Phoenix would cost the city to add those stations, add the personnel. I'm going to give you that in detail in a minute. It effectively takes the $9.3 million budget and adds line item by line item and a few things that are outside of that 9.3 million and says, if the city took on Project Phoenix, what would that add up to? We'd have the ability to run it for Model A and Model B, but we're only talking about Model A. And to jump to the quick conclusion, which I'm going to walk you through in a minute, it effectively adds $3.5 million for the city to operate 3 new stations and hire approximately 21 new people. Again, that's fire and EMS, and that allows the city to expand from the city boundaries to cover the entire proposed service area. The math, as you expect, is primarily a function of people, right? People drive the cost. That's probably no different, city and county. There's an element of the costs that correlate to stations, but by and large, it's driven by the number of people. Again, before I walk you through, I want to stress a couple other things. One, this is built, and Model A is built to be a consistent level of service. That's what we're driving for. We're not trying to add a higher level of service. We're not trying to drop ISO ratings. We're trying to keep things consistent. As an aside, that's what we're going to hopefully be able to work with the county team to figure out what would that cost? What would it cost for the county to continue to provide a consistent level of service north of the boundary, fire and EMS combined? The premise, as I understand, all y'all have been working on it longer than I have, is that there should be some savings to the county if the city took on an expanded area. That's logical. The city takes on an expanded area. Logically, the county's costs would go down. That's what I think we get to later. But from the city's perspective, 9.3 million goes to approximately 12.8 million. Apologize for the small print. I might try to make it a little bit bigger.
We have screens in front of us.
You do?
They're
Okay,
pretty,
then I'm gonna go back the other
I
way.
think
All
they're-
right, so, same line items as in the city budget. The red line items that you see there on this first page, and I'm just gonna stick here, are effectively new line items. They describe the new people. Hopefully you can see that well. That's the lion's share of the uptick in 3.5 million. As you can see, we got zeros in here for Model B. 12 EMS staff, 9 fire staff. The next following line items really are personnel-related costs, whether it be overtime, insurance, and the like. We continue down and we get out of personnel a little bit and we get down into kind of related items. We made an effort to try to highlight a few things that are what we call one-time. You'll see a few more blue highlights as we scroll down the page. Those are not insignificant, but they're not, they're in the $300,000-$400,000 range if you add them all up. We take on a variety of different, pieces. As you can see, a lot of the line items remain zero. We went through this, line item by line item. The word I use when I do these types of fiscal analysis is a lot of the costs to the city are unimpacted or not impacted by the uptick in service area. No surprise, you have many that there's no impact. We've got these 3 new stations. We added some dollars for those at the same consistent amount that the city pays for its stations. Probably a decent spot to say, we are making educated guesses at a lot of these, right? We don't know, to the point that a lot of people have made. We're going to grow into this and we're going to learn more what this costs as time passes. But we need to make reasonable estimates, and happy to make this even more transparent and take people's input on it. I got a couple I'll highlight below. As you can see on this screen, a lot of these things are staying the same. The city's trying to run this lean and keep as many of these things unimpacted as possible. That's a significant number uptick there. Supplies, that's really to run more ambulances. Ambulances require supplies. That cost will uptick. Whole bunch more zeros, bunker gear, significant investment by the city in really a one-time cost. This is a little bit of an oddity. The city's budgeting process has a number of costs that are, think of it as general. City council members will understand this. These are costs that are here estimated. They are related to the expanded service area, but they're outside of the $9.3 million. They're still in the city budget. So we've thought through a number of these, and there's no corresponding number here because it's not part of the 9.3, but an expanded service area will increase these costs. And then lastly, we have probably easiest to think of as capital expenditures. These, as the footnote says, are basically on a 5-year payment plan at a reasonable interest rate. Put all that together, $3.5 million, and that takes you from 9.3 to 12.8. And we have a couple footnotes there. As indicated, there are a few things highlighted in blue, but they're not significant. These down here are really just an example where we'd love to have some more input. We guessed at what it's going to cost for utilities for these 3 stations, and we picked up the number that I found in the county's Levy Road budget for utilities. So that, to my mind, is a decent example of we can get smarter, we can get sharper. Time's going to play this out. But we think this is a appropriate, fair, level service budget for an expanded service area. And
Ed, may I
I'll
ask you a
stop
question
there.
real quick?
Thank you.
Your 2 numbers, your 9.3 and then your 12.8. Is 9.3 Hardeeville's existing current budget?
Well, let me clarify that. It's the draft budget for 2026, 2027. So it's what they're working on to approve this upcoming
Sure.
year.
But similar to last year's budget, I mean, we're talking about your original. And then
Yes.
you're basically saying right now, the cost to the county for you to take over the proposed area is going to be 3.4.
Not to the county. The cost to the city take it up to 12.8 million. If the county paid all of that, yes, then the county would pay you that. But we haven't done everything. I got another page I want to show you in a second. But that's the uptick in cost to the city.
Well, if you will, just so that we don't have to backtrack too much, because you've already given a lot of information, anybody have a question? We'll keep it as short as we can to keep it moving.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
I just have a quick question. I don't want to get bogged down on that argument that I had before, but the premise is it four personnel dispatched to every call, or is that standard? And is that going to be based on what the budget is going to be for 4 personnel going to every single call, whether it's fire, EMS, or whatever?
It's based on the call type. If it's just a fire type call, you're only going to get the fire truck. If it's an EMS call, you're going to get the closest unit plus the closest ambulance. So that would mean that would be 5 personnel going to the call.
Okay, so that's budgeted into
Yes, sir.
your staffing into
Yes, sir.
each firehouse. Okay,
Yes, sir.
thank you.
Anyone else?
Could you go down one page down, or back up, wherever we want to say?
This is the third of the 4 pages of expenditures. I'm going to turn to a revenue page in a minute, but this is the third of the expenditure pages. The 4th expenditure page is the footnote page.
So you actually want to buy a new ambulance?
Yeah, so
Another
let me try to
ambulance.
explain that a little bit. So right now, and this was shown, I think we got through the slides earlier. The ambulance at Levy Road, county-owned, remains there. So the county's existing ambulance at Levy Road would remain there, and the city would operate that ambulance. The county's ambulances at Steiny Road and Mead Road would be taken back by the county, and the county would move those north theoretically. The city would buy a new ambulance to place at Mead Road. At the outcome of that, the city's existing ambulance, plus the new one that they're buying to put at Mead Road, plus the county's left behind ambulance at Levy Road would leave a total of 3 ambulances to service this city service area. So to make this plan work, and this is not the only plan, but to make this plan work, the city would have to buy 1 new one with an ALS package, and that is in the neighborhood of $640,000 with interest, 5 years, interest rate. That's a annual payment of $145,000.
So it's actually Model B scenario,
No,
except
just
one
Model-
less,
yeah.
right? So
Model B would add another one, which would be another $145,000. But this again is Model A. It requires 1 new one. It requires, that's not the right word, but you'll appreciate my thought, that the county's leaving 1 behind at Levy Road, and the county is redeploying the ones that it has at Steiny and Mead Road to the north. Other options would be the county would take the one back at Levy Road and the city would buy 2, go the other direction. The county would leave 2 behind and we wouldn't have to buy a new one. This is a buy a new one, use the one that you already have there model.
What about the scenario that we share we share that building like we did with Cherry Point?
Which building, Mead Road?
Well, we at Cherry Point when we had when Hardeeville had Cherry Point, right? They did the fire out of the Argent Boulevard facility, and we put an ambulance in there ourselves.
At this point, I probably should shut up because I'm not I'm not defining the scenario, I'm modeling the numbers, but these gentlemen have said this is the operation plan. The city operates out of Mead Road, provides fire and EMS. City operates out of its existing station. City operates out of Levy Road, and through that scenario, it covers the entire southern part of the county, fire and EMS.
I'm just looking for options, and again, I go back. Again, we go into EMS. I'm trying to stay out of that right now.
Right.
Because,
Okay,
and you
John,
may disagree with me,
at
but
this-
it's a selling point that we have to make. We have so much going on. The discussion was, do we have enough money?
Thank you, John. At this time, what I want to do is, thank you for letting me interrupt, but I want you to finish your presentation.
Fine.
And then we'll move on.
Thank you. All right, so that takes us through expenditures. we have footnotes on expenditures. The last page of mine, page 5, which I'm assuming you have in front of you, this is an early stage look at sources of funds to pay for this. EMS has reimbursable revenue. So what we're trying to do here is be logical and thoughtful that if the city is providing more EMS calls, it will have a greater reimbursement revenue. The city already has some of that in its existing budget, namely it already expects to have 180,000 of EMS revenue and a little bit of cost to the billing agent. In this expanded service area, the city's going to make many, many more EMS calls. Revenue goes up. Dollars you pay to the billing agent also goes up. Net incremental revenue, $584,000. So the city can pay for part of that $3.5 million uptick, which again was fire and EMS, from this additional net revenue from EMS reimbursements.
That is emergency medical services.
Yes.
That is being charged to insurance companies as a result of service calls.
Right. Again, city already has some of it, but not a lot. And in this new model, the city's going to have a lot more of it. So we're trying to be fair. So that reduces, in the second section, the net need for additional funding to $2.9 million. In this model, the expectation is the county pays the city $2.9 million to pay for that additional need. We've got a reference point here for mills because we just needed a place to kind of put it. This is I'll call it an early stage, probably grossly conservative number. This is meant to be, this is the assessed value of the land in the city, real property and personal, in the 2024-2025 fiscal year. That's from the city budget. We have another whole year we're within right now that we're finishing. So I think that number is probably higher. And then we've got a incoming number after reassessment that will take it even higher. This is a little bit, again, just I wanted to put this somewhere in our page, but this is really the story. It's $2.9 million of net additional cost to the city after additional revenue. I've got some other thoughts I can share, but I'll pause there. This is not attempting to say exactly where the dollars come from to the extent the county provides the $2.9 million. It has some complexities there, admittedly, and I understand some of those. Lawrence understands them a lot better, but this contemplates the county can come up with $2.9 million to pay the city to cover the incremental cost.
You have anything else you'd like to finish with?
No,
All
sir,
right.
thank you.
I'm going to open the floor again to Mr. Flynn first, and then we'll go down the queue.
I was just going to ask one clarifying comment. In your expenditures, do you have a breakout of personnel between EMS and fire?
Yeah, so up at the top on page 1, it's not, I can break it up more for you and happy to, but the big numbers are 762, so that's 12 EMS staff, and 665, that's fire staff. Now, those same people have overtime, and they all also have retirement, taxes, insurance. So I can break all these numbers, but it's relatively pro rata, if that helps.
So rough estimate, it's $1 million on each side for personnel, other $1 million, give or take for.
Yeah, EMS is a little bit bigger, so EMS is kind of 762 to 655, and it's 1.15 greater. So a little bit weighted to EMS, and then the rest of the cost. If we scroll down through all the page, and I'm happy to kind of break it, I've talked to Chief Camp, Jonathan, a little bit about it to kind of split that 3.5 million between fire and EMS, but it's more EMS than fire, partially because of more people, partially because of supplies, partially because of a new ambulance. That's probably the big drivers.
Mr. Flynn, is that all you have?
No.
Okay, and I'm going to do my best here. I think, Mr. Mearsman, did you?
I like the numbers that I'm seeing. We have a number that your council can take back and start working from. It would have just been so much better if we would have had some valuation numbers to look at. I think that would help in us looking at this, because we have a large decision also. You can't say yes or no to taking this on without those numbers. Now, you've given us some great numbers of what it will cost us, but without the reimbursement side of it, it would be extremely tough to do in the 60 days. And we have a short time to do it. So,
Okay.
let's move ahead.
At this time, I'm going to move on to Mary Harry Williams.
I'm going to go back to something Councilman Kemp said. Let's keep it simple, all right? And I also want to add to that what this group, all of us up here, what I would encourage us all to do is let's find ways to make this work, and let's not find ways why it can't work as a general operating thing. Put simply, the proposal here, as I see these numbers, is that we enter into a contract with the county for, I suggest, 10 years, with a review that Mr. Kemp suggested. And, of course, all contracts have, a clause out for non-performance. And what I see happening is that these additional EMS staff, from the county's perspective, in your budgets, you save that money. In other words, those are staff people you're no longer paying, the city is paying. Number one. Any concerns about the personnel, which we've talked about since last July, when we all agreed that this is a step we were going to take, that was last July, that, those could be, if they're not deployed somewhere else, hired by the city. So no one would lose a job. And so I think that that's something we all want, that no one loses a job that serves Jasper County right now. If we need additional staff, then we could take it from the county and they would save. There's also the issue that has been come up by Jasper County from the beginning, that there should be a reduction of millage to the city. Because right now, the county's tax bill is charging the city of Hardeeville citizens for services that the city are providing. In other words, the city's taxpayers have been for many years double taxed. And so that would be eliminated from this plan. So to keep it simple, Mr. Kemp, I think the proposal here is, correct me if I'm wrong, is that we enter into a contract with the county to provide services now to the entire, that map in both fire and EMS, and that contract be a reimbursement from the county of $2.9 million. That's put very simply, and that's really the issue that the 9 of us up here have to decide. We can get into how the thing's serviced, but we're going to put that in the hands of our staff. The county puts it in the hands of their staff, how to operate the fire and ambulance services. So I don't think getting into that discussion is what we're here for today. Mr. Chair.
Mr. Mayor,
Thank you.
I thank you. Important thing, we need to go ahead and be able to instruct staff to go ahead and start on the taxing districts. And because we need to go ahead and get that taken care of. And truly, that's a separate issue that can be done. And I would like everyone here to instruct their staffs to let's go ahead and put that together so we can go ahead and get that done. And then we're going to figure out if we can work this joint services out. For me, joint services in the beginning was going to help with donut holes and keep fire trucks from overlapping and all that. But then you're going to put areas, we're gonna look at, where the revenue is and have that, and so all that, everybody's got concerns, and we're gonna have to hash that out or not. But as to Mr. Flynn's point, this is a decision that will be made or not. But the first one, that's gonna get taken care of. So are we safe to say, let's go ahead and get that taken care of? Okay. Yep. Mr. Mayor?
I just wanted to add, because I forgot to say it, the other savings to the county that should be considered. You're now able to close Mead Road and Steiny Road as an operating place. The county still has to decide what to do with those buildings, but ultimately, they're assets that can be liquidated or used in some other way. I just wanted to point that out.
Great need for those buildings. There's about 10 things that have been identified. I know 2 of them I would like to see, and we'll fight over that too. But anyway, is there anything else of importance we need to take care of today?
I just have one question.
Sure.
On the millage value, you had 111,000. In the meeting last night, we were talking about millage on our budget, and Hardeeville's millage value was 238,000.
Yeah, I've heard that.
848.
Yeah, I've heard that number. John Boyle, city's finance director, has some preliminary numbers from the county.
What our preliminary numbers were.
Yeah, and I hesitated to use those. We've seen those draft numbers. That number right there is in the city's audit from a year and a half ago, 111
That's a
million.
huge increase. That's
It-
what I'm
it
trying
probably-
to say.
It certainly went up by another 5 or 10% in last year. So maybe last year was 120. Reassessment's going to do a variety of things. It's obviously going to push it up. There's always more incorporation of land, right? So the city's gotten a little bit bigger in the last couple of years. So that adds a little bit of value. But when I saw 200 versus 111, I said, I don't know enough about that number, so I'm just going to use the 111. I'm sure it's higher. And I think Mr. Boyle, I should say, is working with Ms. Waite to figure that out. We welcome that, better number, and that'll help.
Anyone else? Mr. Flynn?
I would just say I agree, based on the value of a levied mill within the entire service area that we've seen, the value of the levy mill is about $330,000. So knowing the preliminary numbers, and I can certainly let the county's finance director speak to it, but that number seems in line with what the collectible value of a mill would be. And based on what our expectations are for the new fire tax district, less Ridgeland and Hardeeville, that seems about in line with where it should be.
Okay, next.
If I may say, we're all here for the same reason, to provide the best and safest service for the residents. And it's an open discussion, and a lot of ideas have come out. But one thing we really need to consider is we're all doing this for the right reason for the citizens. And, the safety of the citizens is provided now for the residents in the unincorporated area that we're talking about. There's no dispute about that. We're just looking for a better way, more cost efficient for everybody to do it. But something to also consider is the financial savings to the property owners. With a lower ISO rating that the city will be able to provide can make a major difference. And for the average homeowner, they may say a few dollars, but for an area like the Nickel Plate, where you're talking millions of dollars worth of insurance costs for those in there, the savings can be immense. So it's not just about consolidation of services and savings of money for the cities. It's about doing what's best for the residents and the commercial businesses that we all have in our county right now. That's all.
Thank you. I'm going to call one more time. Anyone else want to finish up before we call for a motion?
Could we have this sent to us? Sure. I mean, it's kind of hard to,
Totally.
at a meeting, it's always disturbs me that we have stuff like this and we get it, and then we try to make decisions on something that we haven't seen and looked at.
Any final words, Mr. Mayor?
Well,
Mr. Chairman, can I just ask the gentleman? a
Yes,
question?
please.
Can you go down to the page where you had all the EMS revenue
revenue. Yes, ma'am,
please?
right there.
Okay, so Jasper County bills their people the whole bill. We do compassionate billing in Hardeeville, meaning we get what the insurance company pays us, and we don't go after the collection agents to collect the remainder. How does that factor into this?
I'll punt that. Those figures, 800,000 were given to me. It's meant to be, as it says there, consistent expanded service area, historical call volume, average rates of reimbursement to be consistent with how the city has recouped money now.
Yeah, we turned it over to our billing agent, said we predict X number of calls based on our current collection rate and how we charge, which is the compassionate billing. These were the numbers they came back as projected based on the number of calls and compassionate billing. So it does include the compassionate billing.
Okay, yeah.
Well,
Okay, thank you.
All right. Well, at this time, there's been a request for an executive session. I'm going to ask, Mr. Mayor, you had a thought on your mind?
Well, you were going to ask for a motion, and I think, and maybe we need to discuss this in executive session, because this is a workshop and not a voting meeting, that what needs to be done to get to a legitimate vote is that the attorneys, city and the county, prepare a contract, given what we've discussed. And then that's a hard situation that both of the city and the county can then vote on, if you see what I mean. Because this is a contractual service. So let's get a contract together so we can decide.
Just keep in the back of your mind that until we go ahead and split the baby, find out what the revenues are going to be, find out what's going to happen after all the new stuff after the 10-year is done, and knowing that it's probably going to be a year before we've got real hard numbers to work with, let's just keep that in mind. But at this point, I'm going to call for a vote to go into executive session.
Could I ask for a clarification on that? Is this executive session combined, or can we have a separate executive session? I'd like to see what our attorney has in mind.
I envision all parties involved here go into a room.
It was noticed to the
and-
public as a joint meeting.
Yes. And so, having said that, can I get a motion to go into executive session?
I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session.
Are you wanting to do one together?
Yes.
It may be uncomfortable,
Do you want to
but,
have a county executive session?
Yeah.
We want to have joint.
We want to have a joint
Mr.
executive
Flynn,
session.
you made the request,
What's our counsel?
just with the county, because you made the request.
Gonna split-
Does anyone have, we're going to call for the motion, and we'll see how it goes. So I'm going to call for a new motion for just the county to go into executive session.
I'll make that motion.
So I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
And all opposed?
No, they.
Okay, not,
just
okay,
us.
okay. All right, so that. Okay, well, I just, as a group,